Recently, I called the City of Olympia a dumpster fire based on recent election results. However, the City of Olympia has taken that figurative statement and made it a literal reality. Thank you for watching. My name is Glen Morgan, and this is We the Govern. And I need to give a quick trigger warning to anybody out there who is highly concerned about hearing anything that has not been approved by Inslee's Ministry of COVID Compliance, because in Washington State, where I'm reporting, nothing I'm going to say has been approved by that ministry. And I also don't think anything I'm going to say today is going to have much to do with COVID, but it's going to have a lot to do about the City of Olympia, which is really suffering recently. And I called it a dumpster fire a few weeks ago after the election results, where unfortunately some of the worst people in local elected office got reelected. And unfortunately that means that the terrible policies that they've been pursuing in the city are inevitably going to continue. Now, for those of you not familiar with Washington State geography, the City of Olympia is the state capital of Washington State, located in Thurston County, and it's actually normally a beautiful city when it's not being trashed by the political establishment and their policies, and it's beautiful, it's right on the water. It's about 30 minutes from where I live, so I always like to pay attention to what's going on in the state capital, because like anything else, whatever starts there in the heart of darkness and political machinations does tend to spread just like a disease, and whatever the political staph infection is in Washington, in Olympia, does tend to spread, sort of like Seattle, so it's always worth paying attention. And unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, that dumpster fire in the City of Olympia, just a few blocks away from City Hall, has started to become a structure fire now. And I just want to point this out because, unfortunately, a 5-story building and a number of businesses around it burned up just a few days ago in the City of Olympia, and it was a pretty catastrophic sort of event. I actually drove down there when I heard about it and got out and got my camera ready and went and took some photos. When I got there, and it was early in the morning, so it was still dark, and the smoke was still coming out of the buildings, and the fire departments, and there were a variety of fire departments there. It was what they call a 3-alarm fire, so it meant there were a lot of different units coming from Black Hills Fire Department, Olympia, and also the Lacey Fire Department to come and put this thing out. Now, just as a quick little flashback here, a few months ago, I was called an illegal journalist for daring to go to the Department of Ecology's property and documenting the toxic waste dump that they allowed to continue to pile up right in front of their front doors. And I was called this by various spokespeople at the Department of Ecology. So I committed, once again, an illegal act of journalism, apparently, by going down and taking photos in the City of Olympia and documenting what was going on there. And this is really quite an impressive structure fire, and they had the ladder trucks out there, and you can really see the big mess that it was making in town and all the people that were involved in trying to deal with this cleanup. And it's really unfortunate because they're going to lose quite a few, the number of these businesses I don't see coming back. The closest building that may still be able to operate is Ziegler's Welding, which has been there for over 100 years now, I believe. Just downtown Olympia, I've used them before myself. It's actually a neat business. And fortunately, they're settling in oxygen tanks. I don't think they blew up, so the city is in better shape because of that. But all these other structures nearby burned up. And what I've been told is that this arson fire, and it is being investigated as an arson fire, is actually a retaliation fire by some local homeless activists. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we talk about it, but that's kind of shocking events because essentially it ties in this arson and the political policies at the City of Olympia and brings them all together into essentially what's a very tragic situation. Fortunately, nobody died, but I mean, it's a terrible loss of property, millions and millions of dollars gone, not to mention the housing that was actually being built right there, and the businesses that are no longer there. So it's a real mess. You have an automotive center. There's not very many of those in the City of Olympia, and losing that is definitely a tragedy. They did have a chance to use all their fire hydrants here. I got just a lot of random photos there as I was walking around just the big mess, and it was quite a circus downtown in Olympia there just the other morning. Now, the fire department and the ATF is going to be investigating this fire because of not just the fact that it was arson, but also the fact that there was a large amount of destruction caused by this fire. I believe their threshold is anything over $1 million, and this is well over that. Many millions of dollars, unfortunately, of property destroyed, and local businesses probably that aren't going to be coming back, or others that were certainly financially damaged by it. And the scary thing is that this may become a little bit more common in Olympia's future, and I'll get into that as I go along. I mean, who wants to see pictures like this in their community when they drive around? And yet, here you go, right on Capitol and right downtown in Capitol Olympia Way. This is going to be the picture that you get to see right now until they start to clean it up. So it's quite a mess. This is the City of Olympia at work. And when I talk about Olympia's decay, as I have referenced in numerous videos in the past, this is just another illustration of that type of decay going on in a woke, super progressive, totally controlled by the Democrat Party city, operating with all of their best ideas at play at work right now. And in the heart of government, where a lot of government workers live, this is the best they have to offer, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be getting a lot better, especially when you look at the quality of the people who actually sit on the Olympia City Council. Some of these people were reelected at the top back row there, but some of the other people have been there for a while, and we really just have an exceptionally unimpressive group of people, not very competent, and certainly, but I'll tell you what, they are very woke, and they definitely know their progressive litany that they need to repeat to tell everybody, and on their watch, I guarantee you the future of Olympia is going to look a lot closer to this than whatever their utopian dream is that they try to tell you that they're trying to achieve, and that's just a very unfortunate thing. So welcome to the future of Olympia. Unfortunately, the dumpster fire that I originally thought was going to be more figurative in referencing the terrible choices and decisions these guys were going to make is actually turning out to be a lot more literal than I or anybody else really want it to be. So let's talk about what I think kind of triggered this arson fire a little bit. We've talked about the Camp Inslee, which is the large homeless camp. We've got some aerial videos that we've produced, a number of them in the past, of just this massive sprawling camp right in view of the governor's mansion. You could see the state capitol across the way, right on Capitol Lake. And last week, they were doing a cleanup down there. They finally decided, I should actually say it's not really a cleanup. I'm told that it's a pickup. Essentially, they're just going in and taking all the garbage out. And there was a massive volume of garbage. When you walk around this place, there's no doubt it was filled with tents and abandoned cars and cars that people were living out of that didn't run anymore, and then massive volumes of garbage. They had already done a fake cleanup on this camp earlier in the year and for election time, just to make it pretend like they were actually doing something. But this had really genuinely grown to significant proportions, and eventually the scale was reaching, it was already way beyond landfill proportions. And so when you're essentially running a legal landfill right next to Capitol Lake and Puget Sound, even in the woke progressive utopia of Olympia, that might be too much. And they've decided that they were going to go in and clean it up. So they had to get an excavator. You can kind of see it pictured here to go in and clean things up. There's no way you can manually remove all this stuff, so you need heavy equipment. They thought it was going to take about 3 days, but it ended up taking about 5.5 days to clean up. I will point out that they removed about 100 tons of garbage. So if you've gone through Common Core, that may seem like a number you can't relate to, but it's about 200,000 pounds or more. It was actually more than that, but that is a lot of garbage to haul out, especially considering the fact that they also hauled 4 semi-truckloads of steel and other metals to be recycled. If you've had your bike stolen or lost it in the City of Olympia, odds are it probably ended up here or one of the other homeless chop shops in the city. And they were, basically recycling that metal for a hit of meth. And it was a great way to take something that you own, steal it, and then convert it into something they could shoot in their arm or some other drug that they could take. So a lot of that stuff was still there. Also, if you've missed any of your pop-up canopies or anything was shoplifted from the various stores in the area, it's kind of generally ended up in one of these camps, and a whole bunch of it was here. So they were able to recycle at least a lot of that metal. That was something that they got out of this. But I will point out that it's a pickup, not a cleanup. A cleanup would really be going and cleaning all the meth lab residue and all the other stuff that is left behind at this bare ground site right now. Now, something I will point out, and some of the cleaning people that were out there cleaning this know exactly what I'm talking about because they saw this the whole time. There was a massive infestation of rats. I have the photo from King 5 News when they were actually documenting the fake cleanup of this location here a few months ago. And there were a massive population. This population of rats had really reached epic proportion, probably the largest that has ever been sustained in one place in the city of Olympia recently. And when all this garbage was taken away, all their food and habitat was removed all at once, those thousands of rats now are going right up into the hill and going into that neighborhood. And so just as a fair warning to everybody who lives there, it's probably going to be one of the more impressive rodent infestations that you're going to experience in your lifetime. And that's another bonus of living next to a homeless camp. Since most of those people voted for the city council that exists here, I'm sure that they'll enjoy cleaning up this mess too. But at least their power bill and their water bill will be a little bit less because these people who live in this camp had actually hijacked quite a bit of power and water off from those homes and brought it down the hill into their camp. And so they were probably wondering why their power bill is high. A little bit lower now that it's been cleaned up. Unfortunately, though, regardless, this is an indication of the continuing decay in the city of Olympia. This camp needed to be cleaned up. There is no doubt about it. It was a big mess. It was private property. The people who own the property didn't want these people here. The police in Olympia had refused to do anything about it. The city council has dithered on this for many years. And in our next video, we will probably talk about why they dithered on it. But I want to point out that the city has told me, but not that I believe them, but they at least told me that they're going to prevent a new camp from popping up there by trespassing the people who would dare to come in and start setting up a new chop shop operations or whatever when they go move in there. Unfortunately, though, the damage really has been done to this property. It's going to take many years to truly get it cleaned up, and it would take a lot more work to actually clean up the pollution that's been put into the waterways and all that there. But this is the city of Olympia. They seem to enjoy that outcome. I will point out that there's another 4 or 5 camps, depending on how you want to classify them around the area. And if every time one of these camps gets removed, and somebody's going to feel like they need to retaliate by burning down another building in the city of Olympia, then I'm going to tell you there's not enough buildings in the city of Olympia to last very long if they keep on having this cycle of cleanup, arson, fire, and then let them go back in and do something like that. But it is the city of Olympia. Nobody's ever accused the politicians who run that place of being very intelligent or planning ahead. So unfortunately, I think that my prediction that the city of Olympia was going to be a dumpster fire is pretty accurate, but the problem is I probably understated the message, and it appears that it's going to be more of a bunch of structure fires instead. So if you want change and you want to make something different in the city of Olympia, you do have to run different people for office and get them in. They have to be getting in there. At least that's going to be some of the start. So if you want to learn more, please go to wethegovern.com and feel free to like and share and subscribe this video. Sharing these videos help because more people will see them. If you know somebody who lives in the city of Olympia, it might help if they see this. I'd be surprised if they didn't smell the stench from the fire, but sometimes people are living in COVID lockdown cubicles and they don't necessarily know what's happening outside of their world. So feel free to share it with them. And remember, if you want to make change, you're going to have to get involved, you're going to have to show up, because the future belongs to those who show up.